My name is Monica, and I am the treasurer on the Board of Trustees. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of the Hudson Valley. Whether you've been with this congregation a decade or more, or this is your first time visiting, we welcome you. Whatever the faith and traditions of your past, we welcome you. Whatever your theological stance, we welcome you. Whoever you are and whomever you love, we welcome you. Whatever your heritage, we welcome you. We respectfully acknowledge the territory on which our church building sits as the ancestral homeland of the Munsee, Lenape, and Wappinger people. Today, I have a few announcements. November 13th, we'll be having our fall cleanup. If you have questions, reach out to Chris. And Side with Love is hosting an online rally, UUs for Climate Justice, tomorrow at 7 p.m. Email Goodnell for more information for the link. Her email is goodnell347@gmail.com. For the most up-to-date information, please refer to our weekly newsletter and check our website frequently. The website is also the place where you can find contact information for the staff, Board of Trustees, and other congregational leaders. And please join us for conversation after the service. If you're present in the sanctuary, join us in the parking lot. If you're watching the live stream, there will be a link in the Saturday morning e-news that you can click on to join our virtual coffee hour. If you're just recently joining us and would like to receive our weekly e-news, please email us with your name and we'll make sure you're added to the e-news list. We can also answer any questions you might have. Email us at uucroton@gmail.com or fill in one of the yellow cards in the back of the pews and drop it in the collection plate. Please silence your cell phones at this time. And once again, we welcome you to the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of the Hudson Valley.
This morning, our worship leader is our own Shane Matheson Dietrich. Shane is a trans, non-binary, and neurodivergent writer, comedian, and musician. Formerly a publisher, producer, and game designer, Shane is taking his first steps towards UU ministry.
If I am not for myself, who will be for me? And if I am only for myself, what am I? And if not now, when?
Our chalice lighting words are by Maureen Killeran. As the kindling of this chalice calls us to community, let there be light. As the flame of this chalice reminds us of our values, let there be light. As the glow of this chalice encourages us to hope, let there be light. And now let us join in our unison affirmation. The words are printed in your order of service. Inspired by love, our mission is to seek our true nature, connect deeply and openly, and act for justice. Let us now bear witness to the joys and sorrows experienced in our community. If you have a personally significant joy or sorrow that you're willing to share, please come up to the microphone to my left, your right, and speak it loudly and clearly so that even with your mask on, we can all hear you. The microphone will allow our friends watching us virtually to hear what you're saying. I will light a candle for each. When you're done speaking, please use the center aisle to return to your seat. If you would prefer only to have a candle lit without speaking, please just stand and I will light a candle for you.
Glad this is right at my height, thank you. So I have a joy to share. I'm Ann Pearl, for anybody that doesn't know me. And my theater group, YCP Theater Works, is going to be performing a play right here in this building the first 2 weekends of November. You'll be getting more information hopefully soon in the newsletter, where to buy tickets and so forth. But keep that in the back of your heads for now. First 2 weekends of November, Friday and Saturday nights at 8 o'clock and Sunday matinees at 3 p.m. Thank you. Oh, it's called the Cemetery Club, by the way. It's a funny romantic comedy. Thank you.
You know, I got him a puppy a few weeks ago, and it's been a joy to bring him and my other dog to Shane and my brother's house every few days to just like run around all the time. And it's enjoyed to see Shane up here.
I'm Joanne, and I was blessed this past week to have my sister and mother-in-law come to visit. We had a delightful time.
Yeah. Good to see you. Joy to have you here, Christine.
As foreign as it is to my own nature to love my own horn. But then again, why not? I finally got this t-shirt in belated recognition of my 56 or plus or minus years of blood donation. I estimate that I've given at least 20, maybe even 30 gallons of my A positive blood. So a good cause. I never got an A+ in school when I was told, but Mother Nature made up for that defect, which I'm very grateful.
I would like to add a concern. I understand that Linda Kara-Nicholas is not here today because last night she went into the hospital. She was diagnosed with diverticulitis. She's home. She's feeling better, but she's taking care of herself and recovering, so please keep her in your thoughts.
Leah. I just wanted to share that I'm really excited to hear Shane's sermon today, and I spent about 4 hours with Shane yesterday giving rides to people going to Sing Sing, and we got to know each other a lot better, and I'm really excited. It was a great day, so I just wanted to say thank you, Shane.
We also acknowledge all the unspoken joys and sorrows held within the sanctuary of our hearts, and all those people who have yet to find a spiritual home where they can share their joys and sorrows.
All right, everybody. We're going to start off today with a very brief guided meditation. So if you would, if you are able, get as comfortable as you can. Close your eyes if you would like to. I would like you all to take a deep breath inward, all the way to the top of your lungs. Let it fill up your whole body and let it out again. I want you to take another deep breath in. I want you to imagine that the air you are breathing is a color, and every time you breathe in, it fills a little bit more of your body with that color. When you breathe out, you are releasing what is not that color into the world. When you take another deep breath in, it fills and colors a little more of you in this peaceful color, whatever this beautiful color is that you are imagining. It can be any, it can be many, it can change, but it is coming into you through this room. It is a manifestation of us being here together today, being able to be in each other's presence and feel one another's energy. Today, going forward, I want you to imagine the feeling of being filled up with that color that symbolizes this community and your part in it. It would not be the same energy without you here. It would not be the same room without you here. You are so important. You are so necessary to our community and to this work. I want you to sit a moment with your body. Let it relax into the space. Let it simply be. It is good as it is. No matter what it can and cannot do, it is beautiful. It is exactly as it needs to be. You are exactly as you need to be. Beautiful, needed, holy. I would like you to take a minute of silent meditation. Thank you.
Our reading today is from Capitalist Realism, Is There No Alternative? By Mark Fisher. It is easier to imagine the end of the world than it is to imagine the end of capitalism. That slogan captures precisely what I mean by capitalist realism. The widespread sense that not only is capitalism the only viable political and economic system, but also that it is now impossible even to imagine a coherent alternative to it. Capitalist realism, as I understand it, cannot be confined to art or to the quasi-propagandistic way in which advertising functions. It is more like a pervasive atmosphere, conditioning not only the production of culture, but also the regulation of work and education, and acting as a kind of invisible barrier constraining thought and action. If capitalism realism is so seamless, and if current forms of resistance are so hopeless and impotent, where can an effective challenge come from? A moral critique of capitalism, emphasizing the ways in which it leads to suffering, only reinforces capitalist realism. Poverty, famine, and war can be presented as an inevitable part of reality, while the hope that these forms of suffering could be eliminated is easily painted as naive utopianism. Emancipatory politics must always destroy the appearance of a natural order, must reveal what is presented as necessary and inevitable to be a mere contingency, just as it must make what was previously deemed to be impossible seem attainable. It is worth recalling that what is currently called realistic was once itself impossible. The slew of privatizations that took place since the 1980s would have been unthinkable even a decade earlier. And the current political economic landscape, with unions in abeyance, utilities and railways denationalized, could scarcely have been imagined in 1975. Conversely, what was once eminently possible is now deemed unrealistic. Modernization, Badio bitterly observes, is the name for a strict and servile definition of the possible.
Staff that comfort me.
I used to sit in my darkened apartment after my partner at the time had gone to bed and listen to that song on repeat. It was the most alone I had ever felt in my life, and yet I was always held and comforted by that music. I knew I only had those sacred few moments alone in the dark, and that he would be waiting for me, expecting me to come to him. Even though I learned about the world's major religions during high school, my agnosticism was still distinctly Christian. The one theological question on offer, according to the culture and literature all around me, seemed to be whether or not one believed in that particular cosmology, presented as it was in its American, left-behind flavored idiom. I knew that I believed in God, but I felt alienated from Christianity. To be honest, I had first stumbled upon that song because I'd been looking for the version of Psalm 23 from the opening credits of the British sitcom The Vicar of Dibley. For those who haven't seen it, it's a show about a spirited young woman who becomes the new vicar of a tiny British village. The characters are all wonderfully human, and it's a delightful look at a loving, while imperfect, community. Maybe that is what I was reaching for in those moments, as I stared out the patio door into pitch darkness, listening to my headphones. Just as I was unable to see beyond the glass of the window and my obscured reflection in it, so too was I unable to imagine a life that lay beyond the one I led. I only knew that reaching such a life was necessary, even if it would be a chaotic leap into the dark. It is often said that abuse destroys one's ability to imagine. My guess on the matter is that our brains are too busy keeping us alive in trauma, staying alert, assessing and reassessing a situation, to ponder beyond the immediate. I certainly found it so. I was always exhausted, trying to keep up with the demands that were placed on me that only seemed to grow in scope and intensity every time I met them. For a long time, as is often the case in these situations, I believed that I could simply love my abuser well enough that things would get better. I could meet him in the middle, I thought, and he would see that I was working hard to be a better partner, a better person, and join me there. Instead, I would work overtime to see his perspective, casting my own aside. Every time I would try to argue on my own behalf, it was taken as an attack. I learned to only see from his perspective, learned only to try and work for change through his rules, by trying to make him feel more comfortable and respected. I gave nearly every inch of myself away. Trapped inside that perspective, nothing he did seemed like abuse. It all seemed like the natural consequences of my misbehavior, my imperfections, the residue of my spirit that I had not successfully scrubbed away. As criticisms gave way to threats, then to battery, all of these slowly built over time on top of my mistakes and desire for stability and normalcy became expected fixtures. At one point, I counseled another friend to leave her abuser with words I needed to hear myself, telling her, "Don't forget what normal should look like." She left her abuser. I didn't leave mine, not yet, not for many, many years after that conversation. You might be surprised to know that I had more reasons to stay than I had to go. I owned a business with my partner. He was dependent on me for the expensive medicine he needed to live. He motivated me like nobody else ever had, and we worked together to make some incredible things. I knew that if I left, everything would change. I would lose everything we built together, risked losing almost every friend I had, losing my entire career up to that point. I knew what was being done to me wasn't right, but I thought I could fix it, repair things by learning how to communicate correctly. And besides, leaving meant ending my entire world. Even when things were at their worst and my life was endangered on an almost daily basis, the surreal horror seemed totally routine, and fighting back felt like an overreaction. More than that, this idea of harming my abuser felt worse somehow than being hurt by him. It felt like it would change my fundamental perception of who I was. One night, trying to defend myself from a vicious beating, I grabbed one of the swords that my abuser kept around the room and pointed it at him. He laughed at me, approaching as I cried, and took it easily out of my trembling hands. Eventually, though, I could feel the toll that living in constant fear was taking on my nervous system. I knew that if I didn't escape, I would die. It took me a long time to make and enact the preparations necessary to leave. I worked secretly for years until I was finally ready. On the last night, as I was preparing to make my escape, I worried that slipping away without giving any warning didn't feel honorable. At that point, one of my favorite authors, who I was lucky enough to be friendly with online, told me something to the effect of, "To hell with being honorable." Lord Shiva of the Hindu faith is called both the Auspicious One and the Destroyer. He is a dancer, his dance the source of all movement. As he dances, he simultaneously creates and destroys that which is no longer needed. His destruction is an act of creation. In the Hindu faith, the end of one world, brought on when Lord Shiva dances, is also the beginning of the next world. The end of a world of strife begets a new era of peace. The Bhagavad Gita, among other things, teaches us that we must face our reality unflinchingly. While I was writing this sermon, two things happened. The first was that Joe Biden's commission on the much-needed reform of the Supreme Court came back with disappointing but ultimately unsurprising results. The ambivalent non-declaration that really nothing is to be done. The second thing that happened was the news that Joe Manchin is reportedly insisting a program that would replace coal and gas-fired power plants across the country with renewable and nuclear energy be jettisoned from the Democrats' vital resolution bill. Soon after that news dropped, it was reported that the senator from West Virginia has taken at least $400,000 from the petroleum industry and GOP donors. I have to be honest, dear friends, I have been feeling so angry and so despondent about this news. But I also can't help but have hope that this will be another chance for people to realize that it has gotten bad enough. That things really have to change, urgently and drastically. Speaking as a member of, for just one more year, the UU's young adult cohort, we are absolutely terrified. Increasingly, you might hear us saying things that sound pretty scary to you. For people for whom the system has been working, dismantling that system feels like an attack. But for the people who have been harmed by that system, it is our only possible recourse. We are desperately trying to save our own lives and the lives of the other living beings on this planet. We have tried Reagan's austerity for far too long. It is time to try something else. We, the young people who will live to see the results of this great trial, deserve the chance to decide our own fate, for better or worse. Things need to change, and we desperately need the older generations to rally around our causes and gift us with your amazing abilities to organize. We need our elders to hear us and help us now more than ever. When the end of the world is looming, it can be easy to balk, to try and run back to some semblance of normalcy. Too many people want us to meet their fear, their unwillingness to confront or acknowledge the danger we face in the middle, and it's dragging us off a cliff. We can hold our ideological opponents with love and care and tenderness. We can fight tirelessly for their right to long, comfortable, free lives without sacrificing our values, boundaries, or our grasp on reality. There is no happy middle between a trans person or a person of color or a disabled person asserting their humanity and someone who believes that they are lesser, disposable, to be eradicated. There is no middle ground between a population longing to come together in community and a system of governance and economics that rewards con artists who intentionally peddle poison and sow division. It is this desperate search for a middle ground that allows us to label those who would obstruct policies popular with 60% of Americans as moderates. Every time I think about the long stretches of abuse in my past, their similarities to the larger systems of human power come so fast and so furious that I get overwhelmed. There is so much more that I haven't talked about, so much more to say on the subject. Of course, it's almost impossible for victims of abuse to leave their abusers or even see what's happening to them. The same assumptions that perpetuate abuse are all around us in everything we do. How then, you might be wondering, did I pull myself out of such a place where working for days on end without rest to serve a master who only demanded more from me was normalized, where being harmed and used and taken for granted was mundane? How did I get out? The most important step was reading, getting educated about what was happening to me. Reading what experts had to say about the mechanisms of abuse and trauma helped me see that what I was enduring wasn't just a law of the universe, nor a natural state. I learned that there could be something else beyond it. I learned about how people can relate to one another in healthy and productive ways. I also sought out community online. I remember that author I told you about earlier. And these people were instrumental in giving me the support I needed to get free. I met others, like me, told them about what I was going through and heard their stories as well. It reminds me of the way it felt to read anarchist and socialist theory for the first time, from the likes of Emma Goldman and David Graeber, and how it felt to find my way into leftist communities. For so long, I had thought I was a capitalist with unorthodox beliefs, but it really turned out that I was just a run-of-the-mill anarcho-syndicalist. There was a name for what I believed, and other people who not only believed those things, but had done in-depth scholarly work on that subject. There wasn't just one idea for a world outside capitalism, but an enormous school of thought and successful real-life organizing to back it up. There is one other thing I really needed to get free of my abuser. I couldn't have done it without this. I was very lucky to have the money to get away, to get a new place to live in secret, to start a whole new life from scratch. I had a lot of resources, and many others remained trapped in abusive or coercive situations, interpersonally and professionally, because they do not have these resources. It has been proven time and time again that society improves in all measurable ways when we give people the money and shelter they need to live. Costs are cut, crime plummets. It is also true that a world beyond capitalism cannot come unless all our comrades have access to the material things they need to survive. It never feels like the right time to run. But the unfortunate fact is, sometimes the alternative is so much worse. When I left my abuser, it was 2017. I knew that something terrible was about to happen and that I was running out of time. When the pandemic hit last year and everyone became suddenly trapped inside for months on end, I knew that I had made a very lucky escape indeed. If I had continued to hang back in fear of ending my world and facing the new one that awaited me, I do not think that I would be here to share my story. The time is running out for the living things on this planet too. For the many, many people we have lost to the criminal mishandling of this pandemic, to police violence, to preventable illness, to exposure, to the inhumane defense of borders, the inhumane defense of private property, to capitalism, it is already too late. But we can save others if we act now. But we have to run now. It is time to face a new world together. Here it is. Oops. Thank you for your patience, everyone. My goodness.
Each week, we make an offering from the bounty we are blessed to enjoy. We do this in a spirit of love and generosity, aware that we have benefited from those who have gone before us, those who in their turn gave generously. Our offering goes to support the work of love and justice undertaken by this community. Today's offering will also be shared with the UUSC in support of their efforts in the aftermath of the earthquake in Haiti, Afghan refugees, and New Orleans after Hurricane Ida. Please refer to our e-newsletter or our website for more information. You can make your donation in several ways. If present in the sanctuary, you may give cash or a check in the offering plate as it comes by. You can also scan the Q code in your order of service. From your homes, you can make your donation via credit card or PayPal using the links provided in the e-newsletter. Please remember to give a little extra to compensate for the 3% surcharge, or, if you prefer, you can always mail us a check. The offering will now be given and gratefully received. Please join me in the dedication of the offering. The words are in your order of service. May these gifts and the work of our hands and hearts give power to all we stand for as a community of faith. Now please join me in extinguishing the chalice. The words are found in your order of service. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.
May we go forward in purposeful rhythm, that we may give voice to the melody of our imaginations, the music of our souls, and all the possibilities of a just world, as we might together create it. Go in peace. Dietrich.